A couple used their savings to buy a century-old stone house in the Alps and spent 3 years transforming it into their dream Eden. Not only is the interior exceptionally luxurious, but the house is also surrounded by their own vast fields. This stone house was originally built by Venetians 200 years ago. The previous owner added the terrace on the left 40 years ago and renovated the roof a few years ago. Although the house has no internet, no electricity, and relies solely on rainwater for its water supply, it is precisely this serene retreat, far removed from the hustle and bustle of everyday life, that the Bradys have been seeking. The entire building has 2 stories and 6 rooms. On the first floor, in addition to the kitchen and the cattle shed on either side, there is a living room in the center featuring a classic fireplace. A spiral staircase at the entrance to the living room leads up to the loft above. Their 2 daughters are so excited they want to turn this space into their bedroom, and Brady's wife is already envisioning future renovation plans. However, since the building permit hasn't been approved yet, they can only make whatever changes they can on their own. To breathe new life into the stone house, the Brady family plans to start by clearing away the overgrown weeds, and they can simply push the excess soil downhill to create mini terraces. Just as Brady was about to start loosening the soil, a sudden downpour began, so he and his daughter had no choice but to take shelter inside the stone house. He connected a light bulb to a portable power bank, bringing long-awaited light to the room. The next day, he went down the mountain to buy some wooden planks, assembled them into a wooden box, and then fully carbonized the surface, thereby expanding his terraced vegetable garden. While continuing to dig, he unexpectedly discovered a gushing spring, which he surmised must have been the villagers' water source in the past. Now all that's needed is to clear away the fallen boulders, shape them into a reservoir, and use pipes to channel the spring water to one's home. Take down the fences and turn them into an outdoor kitchen. Brady then built the frame of the outhouse using square timbers and covered the top with neatly fitted planks. As for flushing the toilet, we rely on rainwater collected by the roof tiles, and with the newly cultivated vegetable garden right next door, we've truly achieved self-sufficiency. At the same time, the approval for the renovation was granted without a hitch, and the family could finally begin renovating the century-old stone house. According to local regulations, they needed to dig the floor down another meter to accommodate the installation of waterproofing and insulation. The next day, the solar panels he'd ordered online arrived, and the whole family worked together to set up a slanted mount behind the house so the panels could get plenty of sunlight. The room on the far left had been used by the previous owner to keep cows, so it took Brady a long time to clear out the accumulated manure. As winter set in, a layer of snow had accumulated on the solar panels. Brady cleared away the snow and boiled a kettle of water for himself. To their surprise, while cleaning the wall, they found a parchment scroll containing a large number of matches. After clearing all the walls, the Bradleys began excavating the floor. However, once all the dirt in the living room was removed, the original fireplace would likely collapse as well. To preserve this iconic structure, Brady first selected several high-quality rebar rods, carefully hammered them into the base of the fireplace, braced them with wooden planks, and then poured in the freshly mixed concrete. Since all the joists on the second floor had been replaced, Brady first split the surfaces of these joists into irregular shapes and then charred them with fire to give them a vintage look. As a heavy rainstorm rolled in, a falling rock damaged one of the solar panels and even shattered some roof tiles. Fortunately, there were some leftover slate tiles from the previous owner right under the eaves. Now, All we need to do is reattach them to restore the roof to its original condition. Water has already seeped into the room, so for now, we'll just have to wash away all the rotten caulk. That will make it easier to repair later on. The next day, they brought the original floorboards back, had my wife sand them down, and painted one side with white finish. It could even be used as the ceiling on the first floor. To complement the vintage look of the beams, my wife suggested sanding the painted surface one more time. Each board must be secured with a 10 cm screw. The trash on the floor kept piling up, and it took Brady half a day to clear out the first floor. By hauling the trash out of the room, he could not only easily lower the floor level but also collect a large amount of stone. He had originally planned to take this opportunity to clear out the left side of the stone house as well, but as soon as he started chipping away at the stones, the adjacent wall would begin to tremble uncontrollably. To prevent the walls of his new home from collapsing, he quickly ordered the drilling crew to stop and began reinforcing the stone house from all sides, using formwork to encase the rebar in a channel. Now that the drainage pipes have been installed in advance, we can officially begin the concrete pouring process. In their free time, the Brady family also likes to take walks in the mountains, relax in an open-air stargazing cabin, and discuss the layout and design of their new home. Once the stone house had been built into a solid structure, Brady brought in the excavator again, ready to begin expanding the house's floor area. After tearing down the previous owner's patio, they began planning the foundation for the side house. While waiting for the concrete to dry, Brady went inside to connect the drainage pipes. Just then, the hollow bricks they had ordered arrived, so everyone worked together to build a moisture-proof barrier to slow the upward movement of moisture. Even though it was pouring rain outside, nothing could stop Brady from building. Even his two daughters came to help, and the enthusiastic villagers worked very hard. They not only helped lay the moisture barrier in the living room but also successfully knocked down the partition wall. To ensure the roof style matched that of the stone house, Brady's wife also prepared some decorative faux beams. After pouring a 20 cm thick layer of concrete over them, they looked completely authentic. She took the opportunity to build the staircase at the same time. All she had to do was secure the formwork on the sides, which made the pouring process much simpler. With the side wing now fully completed, Brady has once again embarked on his grand renovation project. After all, the small doors from a century ago in the Venetian-style home no longer fit his current height, and the partition wall and the stairwell below also needs to be expanded once more. Since the stone house features arched doors and windows, and in order to preserve the original style as much as possible, they specifically crafted curved molds out of foam. By simply stacking the stones one by one, they were able to recreate arches that are identical to those from a century ago. Before we knew it, it was already the second day of winter. Brady had bought enough hollow bricks to fill the entire house and added a moisture barrier to the wall near the mountainside. Since the center of the second floor will be used as a bathroom area, the walls around the staircase need to be enclosed, and the floor needs to be reinforced with a reinforced concrete structure. With the basic structural renovations complete, the stone house has finally reached the stage of interior finishing. First, they used a steel frame to enclose the walls, dividing the space into separate areas. Here is the children's room, and a hallway has been created to separate the central bathroom area. The room next to the patio is the Bradley's bedroom. The old stone walls still need to be covered with foam panels to ensure proper insulation and heat retention. They started by marking out the area for the bed, then carved out recesses for the electrical switches one by one. Next, install a vapor barrier over the insulation layer to prevent moisture from spreading through the roof. To let more light into the bathroom area, Brady plans to install a skylight in the roof. For the next half month, they were busy sorting out the plumbing throughout the house. Given the serious moisture problem in the stone house, Brady ordered another truckload of moisture-resistant drywall. By simply covering the walls with it and filling the joints with spackle, he could completely block the escape of moisture. Since the filler next door had already been completely removed, Brady first put cement into a plastic bag to make the wall more sturdy, then squeezed it little by little into the gaps between the stones, and finally smoothed it out with a trowel. Brady prepared a large number of underfloor heating panels in advance and neatly laid the foam boards in each room. As the pipes are gradually covered, have a professional sand the floor to a uniform level. Early the next morning, Brady set to work repairing the windowsill. Since the seller had said the custom-ordered doors and windows would be delivered that day, he then filled in the gaps in the door threshold. As the infrastructure continued to improve, Sherwoo's electricity consumption increased, so he had no choice but to buy a few more batteries. To meet the bathroom's waterproofing needs, my wife painted the walls with blue waterproof paint. Next, install the shower and toilet, and connect the massive ceramic bathtub. Thinking about the issue of personal hygiene, Brady even built a sink himself. Since the temperature in the area often drops below freezing, Brady decided to install another fireplace in the house. He also went out of his way to purchase a giant propane tank and buried it at the farthest corner of his property. Brady had the contractor clear a space on the left to set up a cooking area there. It has been 3 years since the stone house was renovated, and his masonry skills have become increasingly refined. As the early morning clouds drifted down over the town at the foot of the mountain, Brady made himself a cup of coffee and headed down the mountain for a leisurely stroll. Most of the buildings here were historic. He studied the design of the flowing fountain, hoping to replicate it in the stone house. Fortunately, the overall structure wasn't too complicated. He just needed to hide the water pipes inside the walls, carve water channels into the stone blocks, and install them in the designated locations. Since the space would serve as a kitchen, he also had to lay the electrical, gas, and drainage lines. 4 winters have passed since the renovation of the stone house began. From its once dilapidated state to its current splendor, the once barren terraced fields have begun to flourish once again. We believe it won't be long before the Brady family can move into this dream home, far from the hustle and bustle.